Alright, so where we left off, we have our pipes that are spawning at some random positions. Next thing we want to do is make it so that when we actually hit the pipes, the game ends. And that's going to require connecting our different objects, our bird and our pipes, to the GameManager script. So let's open the GameManager script first. In GameManager, we want to make a Boolean value. So private Boolean, and we'll call this canPlay. And we'll default this to be true. Now, we're going to have an accessor and a mutator for this. So an accessor and a mutator are also known as a getter and a setter. There's other ways that we can do this in C#, but for now I'm going to do it the long way. But there are shortcuts to this, just to let you know in the future. So we're going to make a public Boolean get canPlay. This is public so that other functions can find that, and we're just going to return the canPlay value. And we're going to make a public void set canPlay. And this is going to take in a Boolean value that I'm just going to call value. Well, I guess we can't call it value. We'll call it, I can't think at all, CP for canPlay. And then we'll set canPlay equal to CP. The reason that we're doing this is if the bird interacts with something, we want the bird to tell the GameManager that it's crashed. And so we shouldn't be able to play anymore. So in the update function, we only want to check to see if canPlay is true. So if canPlay is false, we can do this either by writing canPlay false, or in C#, because it's a Boolean value, it can only be true or false, we can check to see if not canPlay, meaning if canPlay is not true. If that's the case, then we're going to return. Alright, Visual Studio, you got it right that time. Now back into our bird script here for our controls. We want to check to see if it's colliding with something. So outside of the fixed update, but inside of the class, we want to call void on collision enter 2D collider 2D other. Now, I forgot to do this, but we want to actually make a reference to the GameManager for our bird as well. So we'll do this as a serialized field, private GameManager, and we'll call this GameManager. And then in here, we'll set GameManager dot set canPlay to false. Alright, so back in Unity now. Nope, not Unity Hub, but Unity. We're going to have to set the GameManager on the bird. So on the bird itself, I don't want to do anything with rigid body. I want to set the GameManager here. So we're going to add that in. Now, there's an error on collision enter 2D. What did I do? Okay. Has to be typed collision 2D. Alright, so my error says that it needs to be typed collision 2D, but I thought it was collider 2D. So on collision 2D other. We'll find out in just a second. So I could just run the bird into the ground, but I want to run it into the pipes to make sure that it's not Well, I guess I could just run it in the ground to see if it's spawning pipes, but that doesn't feel right. Okay, so those two pipes had already been created, but you can see that it's not making more pipes. And the bird fell. We don't want the bird to fall. We want the bird to freeze where it is. So in our control script, we want to grab the body dot constraints equals. This one is kind of weird the way they named it. It's rigid body constraints 2D dot freeze all. I think it's that way, or it might be uppercase F. Unity is inconsistent with their naming structure. So it must be capital F then. Because like it's rigid body 2D, but it's rigid body constraint 2D. It should be rigid body 2D constraints. Whatever, Unity. It's your football game. You get to play how you want. Alright, there we go. So the bird should freeze now, but the pipes are still going to keep moving. We need to do something to tell the pipes to stop moving. Cool. Bird is frozen. Oh, hey. We should probably... So we don't, I guess since we're freezing all, we don't need to turn off the bird controls there. It's kind of cool. I didn't think about that. All right. So then we want to make the pipes freeze too. So what we have to do then, in the pipes, we're going to make a function for setup. And this is different than start. So we're going to call this void setup. And this is going to get, oh, before we do this, let's create a reference to the GameManager. Serialized field, private GameManager, GameManager. So the pipes need to know who the GameManager is in order to know if they should or shouldn't be moving. So we're going to need to set that up because the pipes are being created. Otherwise we could just, drag in. So we're going to use a setup function. And it's going to take a game manager, we'll call it GM, as its argument. We're going to use that to set game manager equal to GM. Now we're only going to have the pipes move if game manager dot get can play equals false, and we're going to return. Now, I mentioned this before, there's a way that you can do this simpler because it's C# and not Java. Instead of saying double equals false, you can just check to see if not GameManager.getCanPlay. And that's a slightly simpler way to do it. Alright, now these need to know, right now the pipes don't know what the GameManager is. If we hit run, we're going to get a null reference exception error because we have a reference to a game manager here, but there is no game manager in it, so it's empty, it's null. In order to fix that, when we create the pipes, we're going to have to tell it to set up using this game manager. We're going to do that by, instead of just instantiating it, we're going to create it as a game object, temp, and set that equal to instantiate pipes. So we're in the game manager script here. And then we're going to grab the pipes script from temp. So pipes, hey, man, you are getting it wrong. Visual Studio, you are not as smart as you think you are. Okay, capital P pipes, good. call it like temp pipe equals temp dot get component pipes, and then we're gonna do temp pipe dot setup. Did I do capital S setup? I did. Set up this. So we're passing in this script into there. Okay. So let's save this. Let's head back into Unity. Give it a second to think here. Alright. Inaccessible due to... Oh, I didn't make it public. So in the pipes function, I didn't make this a public void. Otherwise it can't be referenced from outside. Okay. Back here. Give it a second to think. The namestate pipes cannot be found. So what's the error with that? So in GameManager. Oh, this is capital P pipes. I'm gonna blame that on Visual Studio, even though you guys saw it happen. You probably know it wasn't Visual Studio. It was just me mistyping. Alright, sweet. Now let's see if the pipes stop when we run into them. If we get a null reference exception error after the first pipe was created, we know that we did something wrong. Okay, cool. There we go. Now, we want to create a... actually, that's it for now. We've got our game manager kind of working, and our basic core game loop is there. So, join us in the next part.